Endgame. The biggest period of your Monster Hunter experience is often the endgame. Those are the days where you're crafting your perfect build, or hunting the hardest monsters, you're testing out various weapons, exploring the game in its full, while, enjoying regular updates that are going to shift the meta as you know it. But to have a good endgame, you'll need a few things. Certainly, a major aspect of that is going to be the very difficulty of that endgame. Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Olo, and today I'm doing my very first discussion style video for Sunbreak. Obviously, it's all about difficulty and the endgame. What do I think about it? Has Sunbreak lived up to its potential? Did it address the major issues of the original game? I think it has so far, actually. But context is required, so let's talk about what I mean when I say the issues of the original. In my opinion, the original base Rise was lacking in satisfying difficulty. I found that there was only a few monsters that gave me the challenge I was really looking for as it was released, say Valstrax being a good example of that. But really, it was only just touching on what I was looking for, and that was the last one that was added. So for your average player, I think it's fair to say monsters like Allmother, Nawa, Valstrax, maybe the 3 Elder Dragons, they might be what you consider more challenging to your average player in Rise. But what do I mean by challenging? I mean it's something that makes you sit up and pay attention when you're fighting it. You know, forces you to really focus to avoid carting, while also making for a fun and satisfying experience that's not irritating because of its difficulty. Monster Hunter has a fantastic history of doing that well. Best in my opinion was back in Iceborne with both Elatrion and Fatalis. And I just didn't find a comparable experience like that in all of original Rise, which is why I say it felt lacking. But there's more to long-term fun in a game like that than just, hey, the first few times were hard. There's other reasons I think original Rise Endgame had a few issues. Comparing Rise to Sunbreak, we do have a bigger roster, sure, but I think it's the roster itself being more fulfilling that makes an impact. The Master Rank versions all hit harder, they have new movesets, it's all faster, not to mention the many new statuses we're dealing with these different monsters. So it's got good variety, consistent challenge throughout, with the new monsters to Rise, along with new fun subspecies. But most important of all, is the reason to do it is actually there now. Let's look at Rise and its main endgame, which was Rampage and Apex Monsters. Rampage was a fun and much more unique game mode for Monster Hunter. It was this mix of Monster Hunter and tower defense, basically. I found it interesting at first, but more and more I found myself, when I had to do a Rampage instead of actually hunt, I wanted to hunt, not play tower defense. I never really found it that challenging. Eventually it became a bit of a chore just to fight the Apex monster at the end. Speaking of Apexes, they're introduced originally through the Rampage. And for a good while, that was the only way you could actually fight them. But finally, eventually, we got a nice mix of Apex monsters to hunt in actual Monster Hunter style hunting, which ended up being essentially simpler versions of original deviants we've seen before. Not quite reaching the same challenge, the full movesets that you'd hope for, and not to mention the very disappointing lack of Apex equipment, meaning weapons, armor, new skills. All of that could have been tied to the Apex monsters, which would have breathed new life into the game. Now, I know that sounds negative, since I am talking about two things I found disappointing in the game, but I want to make it clear at this point, I really enjoyed Rise. The issue was that overall, that lacking difficulty meant I just wasn't getting the same feeling in Endgame Rise as I was looking for. The Rampage was neat, but not quite Monster Hunter, and Apex monsters had little tied to a reason to actually hunt them, let alone being lacking deviants as is. This led to playing Rise long term for me, just because I wanted to play it. And that's completely okay, and I did do that for a long time. I did lots of personal challenges, or tested all the weapons with different builds. I just don't think the endgame and the difficulty of the game hit quite as well as it could have. And I reckon that may have been tied to the fact that the development was ongoing during COVID, that had so much impact on so many games, and the resulting roadmap we got as well, that surely was affected. Looking at Sunbreak's endgame, we now have higher difficulty in Master Rank. There's the monsters with the bigger movesets, the much more dangerous damage and pace, the new monsters themselves, but what I think's really good is the way they've done the Anomaly quests, which are vital to every hunter out there. The rewards for hunting afflicted monsters are very clear. They're tied directly to most Rarity 10 upgrades for your weapons. That means most people need to fight these guys and get those materials. Almost every build will require some afflicted monster parts, and importantly, they have 8 different types rewarded from different specific afflicted monsters. So you don't just go hunt one same afflicted monster and over, you need to engage with a bunch of them. Not to mention, the big new decorations, many of these are unlocked from hunting certain afflicted as well. So that encourages you perfectly, not only to engage with Anomaly quests to get your upgrades, but to try a variety because they don't all reward the same thing. A very simple but effective way to incentivize the player to hunt these special monsters that was completely missing from Apex monsters once you got like a base bit of resources that they all dropped. I would describe our current endgame then as a very clear, clever loop where it ties into itself, keeping you engaged with the various systems for a variety of reasons. Whereas I would describe Rise Endgame as more of a line. You know, you start at the beginning and you get to the end and, well, it ends. And that's not the only advantage Sunbreak has. With its bigger roster and all the other details, the weapons themselves are also way more complex, right? We've never had this much to choose between thanks to the scroll swap system. So every weapon has more to try, more to learn, and you can use it all at once. So the skill cap, I'm not sure if it's ever been higher than this. The player power with that is very high, meaning top tier speedrunners are getting these crazy fast kill times. But your average player has much more to learn and manage, which just injects a lot of longevity into the game, along with the difficulty of the monsters being better, and that makes for an awesome balance. However, I did mention the roadmap earlier and mentioned a reason to keep playing. There's never been a better time to play a Monster Hunter game than when you know something else is coming. We've got everything we're working on right now, but we have all this new content right around the corner as well, with new skills, new decorations, new weapons, new metas and builds because of that. We have the new monsters that we're going to challenge, which should be even harder than most of what we're currently contending with. It's like the ceiling of the expansion to begin with is great, with a lot to work on and enjoy, but we all know that it's only going to get higher soon, and then again, thanks to that clear roadmap that they've been outlining in the trailers. Really importantly, they feel like updates, you know, proper additions to the game, whereas Rise felt like they were just unlocking the base game. Again, I think the COVID situation is a very valid reason, and it played a huge role in that, but many people claimed that Rise was a unfinished game. I don't think that was necessarily the case, especially by 3.0, but I do think it's fair to say they may have planned more, maybe with the Apexes, maybe with other new content, and I do agree in hindsight that 2.0 and 3.0 did feel like they were unlocking maybe what a lot of could have been there at the start. Meanwhile, like I said, base Sunbreak, that feels great. Something I think I can really sink my teeth into for a good while. And I'm not sure I could say the same for base Rise, not in the same way. But then there's more, much more that's coming soon that's very exciting, and knowing that there's more coming makes everything I'm doing now more meaningful so that I'm ready for those updates when they come. So yeah, I feel like the Sunbreak roadmap is a lot more promising and exciting than the original one. I think that's largely down to the easier dev time they've had as the world has adapted to COVID during Sunbreak dev time. I loved Rise, and I'm loving Sunbreak even more. And I perceive Sunbreak to be fun for a lot longer thanks to these smarter incentives and the better roadmap for the game. And so overall, I'm very pleased with it. And I'm only now just starting to try other weapons than my main. But what do you guys think? Have you guys reached Master Rank 100 yet? Or have you been taking your time and trying all of the weapons and builds? Do you think Sunbreak Endgame is better than Rise Endgame? For Sunbreak, you can look forward to lots more videos for a long time from us. And we start to talk about finally streaming again now that we might have finally time to do it. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.